Hello, it's Frank Jeter, that one web guy, and I'm back with another video. In this video, I want to talk to you about color schemes. I know a lot of times we're designing websites, we're modifying our own websites, or maybe you're just doing things with logos and things like that, and we can't figure out a good color scheme to use, or we can't figure out a color scheme that based off of a logo maybe we've designed ourselves, or we've hired somebody to design a logo and they didn't provide the colors, and you want to make sure that your colors match throughout the website. As a web designer developer, one of the key things I'm critical about is branding. So keep carrying your brand throughout your website, your order page, your emails that you send out, your marketing pieces, and all that is important. So how do we find that information out? Well, there's a couple ways to do that, and I'm going to cover those today. Right now, you're looking at Peloton.com. It used to be called colorschemedesigner.com, a few different things like that. And you can generate some different really cool color patterns through here. And I'll get to that in just a moment. I'm going to kind of go back and forth, I think, between two different ones. The other one that I'm going to be talking about is colors.co. And I kind of use them together. Sometimes, other times I just use one or the other depending on the need that I'm using. And they're both really cool. So I'm going to start with what I had talked about earlier. Maybe you had a logo designed, or you're revamping your website. You like the color of the logo, but you don't know what color those are that you want to use for the website itself. So it's good to know those. Well, how do you find that out? Well, there's this option here on I think it's called coolors.com. We can import, or we can oops, sorry. Let me go back here. I went to the wrong button there. We are going to go to a link here. Now this page takes a little bit of time to load up depending on how fast your browser speed is. It tries to generate a color scheme for you. I actually want to click on pick colors from image. It's the little camera icon right here. We're going to click that and it's going to pop up. Either you can browse and drop in your image or do a remote image. Now a lot of times if you're working from a website, you may have the image on your computer, you may not. I'm going to show you what to do if you do not. So I'm going to click on a browser here that I already have up. This is one of my sites that I have. I'm getting ready to update it a little bit and add some different things. And I have the logo right here. And I can see it's got black, orange, and a teal kind of green color here. And I want to know what colors are in it. Now I have the Photoshop file, but I'm going to play along, and I'm going to right click on the image and click copy image address. So then we're going to go right back to our other site here, and we're going to put in the remote image right here, and it's asking for a URL. So I'm just going to right click and paste, and then I can click OK. And what it's doing, it's going to sample the colors that are from there. So you can see that it has these different colors, and you're saying, well, Frank, that still doesn't tell me what color's in there. And of course, it's picking the predominant color that I have here, and that's going to be the first color that we have is the black. And I think, I can move it around to make the other one, pick a predominant color that I want to choose from that color and then base it off of that. Obviously, I know black, so I want to know what the other colors are and then work off of that for some color schemes. Orange is one of my favorite colors, so that's one I'm going to pick with that one. And I'm going to click OK. And it's going to put it in the palette here. Now I can save that palette as is, or I can adjust and tweak. Now, one thing that I did, what this gives me is it gives me the hexadecimal for each of the images that it pulled the colors from. So these are the two main colors that I like. So I can lock these colors in, and then I can adjust these other colors. Now it's really cool that I can do alternative shades. So if I want to adjust the colors, I can slide up or down. And I know black or the darker gray is one of the images that I want to use. So I can put that one in there, and then I can do that as well. Or I can adjust. So I can, if I wanted to adjust the hue, I can modify it a little bit. Obviously I don't want to go green, but you can kind of play around with it that way a little bit. And once you have this, once you have your palette set up, you can then of course save it and then modify it as you want. Now I have some already saved over here. I've logged into an account. It's a free account. You can use it however you like. I already have some saved over here, so I can actually come back and use any of these for any of my other sites that I have. I just click save, give it a name. I type worse when people are watching. I'll click that and save it as that. So now I have this palette saved, and it should show up in my list over here. It sure does. And then I can hide that at any time. Now what's great is, if you're trying to figure out, while we're on this side, I'll stick with this side a moment, is to generate a palette. Maybe you're wanting to try to figure out some palettes, you're just going to scrap everything that you have, or you're just starting out, either one, and you wanted to figure out some good palettes. And I've done this for some sites as well. You can click generate right here, and as I said, this actually takes a second or two. You can see it spin around there, and it will come up with a palette idea or suggestion. Obviously you don't have to use that one, and this process could take some time as it generates a few different color palettes. Now I think this obviously looks pretty cool. It's a nice color palette, but you have to think about your target market, what works for you. Obviously this may not work for a plumbing site, or this may work well for maybe you're doing a site for babies, or you're working in that site, expectant mothers. You have a nice palette range for that, and things to think of there. One other area that you can do, you can generate and look. What I like to do is, if I'm working with a client and I do come across a color scheme that I like, I can share that with them. I can either send them to the site, the URL, or I can export. And a lot of times what I do is I go into Evernote. I use Evernote a lot, and I will copy this information into my Evernote. You can click save, you can export. So if I wanted to send this to a client, I could either do the URL, I could do PDF or PNG. Now these here are a little more tech advanced for what most people use, but if I wanted to use a PNG, which is a image file, I can do that. It'll generate that, and I can right click this and copy the image and post it into my Evernote, paste it into an email. I can save the image and download it to my computer. That way I can attach it to an email, and then the customer can say, yeah, I like these colors, but the third color I want to be a little bit different. So you can go back and tweak those and adjust them accordingly. So this gives you a nice color palette chart that you can send to them. So I really like that feature. And that did open up in a new window, as you've seen there, so that you can go back. Now I won't elaborate on this, but there's one other thing that I want to show with you here is the Explore option. So under the Explore option, you can see some of the latest colors that have been saved. So other people are looking at some ideas, and it kind of puts this in a database of different colors that people use. And you can see, well, there are some cool color schemes or some cool layouts here that we have. Like here's mine that I just saved. I make book covers. You can see that. I can view it. I can export it, save it to my own palette. So I'm looking through here and I like this one. I like this one. I like that one. I don't really like that one. I just was saying that as it crossed over it. So you can see what others seen. You can see, like this one has 2 views. This one has 3 saves. This one, most of them just have 1. So you can see, what is popular and things like that. So there's latest, there's picks, there's best. You can kind of filter through some of the color schemes. So if I click on best, it's going to generate the palette again. I wish the site would be a little bit faster on the speed, but I can imagine it's generating a lot of information in the background as it regenerates these palettes to display, because I'm sure in the database it's saving it as the hexadecimal colors, and then as it's generate these, it's spitting them out on the page. So it's taking a moment to generate that information, but it would show a palette. There we go. It's showing the most viewed, most selected, or the best palettes that have been selected. As you can see, this one has 110,000 views and 6.9K saves. So you can go through here and you can see what's popular with other people and what worked for them. Obviously it doesn't work for you, but it could get you closer to what you're looking at. So that's just one area. Now I'm going to go back to my saved themes because I want to show you how I integrate it with the other site and some of the things that you can do with that. So I'm going to go with my saved themes here, and I'm going to pull up the I Make Book Covers theme, and it's generating that again. I should have opened up in a new tab and left it. So give it just a second here as it generates. Now this is my main color that I like. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go into this other palette generator, palette or color scheme. Now this one we can kind of play around with the different colors. We have just the base color, and it does kind of a monochromatic one color. That's what that says over here to the right, and it just shows you variations of that one color that's selected. It's basing it off this color here. So if I generate it over here, you can see the different monochromatic. You can see adjacent colors, so it has colors that are close, and you can create a cool color palette that way as well. and and I think it's tertiary or triad. You can see the different color schemes. It's a nice palette there, and it just keeps on going and going. But as I said, I was wanting to use the main color that I picked out, the orange color. So it says base RGB. So I can click in that palette. I can highlight that number and then paste in what I had. Click OK, and it's going to bring in my orange, which is way up here, and it does that palette. So I can go through each of these that I have and maybe see some color schemes that I like here and play around. I can save the palette, share the palette, that type of thing as well. So I'm not done the share palette. That's been added since I last looked, or I just maybe didn't notice it there. The cool thing here is you can see some examples. So if I click on the examples tab, it's using this color scheme. I can see some examples of what that might look like in place. White space, a white page, dark page. So maybe you have a dark background. Positive design. You can see some of the different things there. Negative design. You can see artwork. So it gives you some different artwork samples using those colors. That type of thing. So we go back to the page layout, and of course you can go through each of those and just kind of see how it might be used using the color scheme that you picked out. Just some ideas of usage, which is kind of cool. So that kind of works with creating a palette as well based on the color schemes that you have on the other one. And it says share palette. Yep, not found. So maybe they're still working on that. It's interesting. So obviously this doesn't have as many features, but it has some features that the other one doesn't on generating some palettes as well. So I hope you found this video useful. I hope you'll be able to pick out the color schemes that you're looking for and make the progress that you're wanting to make. Check me back out for another video. Subscribe to the link, click the notify, and like the video if you like this. Thanks.